All right, I'm finally, after a while hiatus, back to working on the C126. I'm going to be pulling the engine. All right, so we're going to be removing some of the steering components here just to give some easier access for the transmission to dip down as we remove the entire assembly. Using one of those, god damn it, we're using one of those splitters to pop the ball joints off, makes it quick, easy work. And talking about removing the engine dampers here. And we're going to be disconnecting some of these hydraulic lines. Jeez, I'm sorry how fast that all is. Yep, take off the linkage, guibo joints. So I'm taking off, remember the engine seized here. I actually forgot that it could still freewheel. But so taking off the cross member and taking off the bolts. I ended up going with a different approach here. So we're just going to disconnect the drive shaft from the guibo joint. And you can also see, look how that transmission mount is sagging now. So that actually just fell right off. Transmission mount's done for. There we go. That's going to pop off in a second. And as we drop the trans down, it'll separate easier. Just a couple collets, bushings, whatever you call those things. I forget. Removing the wiring harness here. So there was quite a brittle connector, the main connector here. This is the white piece is a lock. If you turn that lock upwards, you're able to easily remove the electrical connector. And taking off the gear selector rod now. The bushing was gone, so it's pretty easy. And you notice I also took out a speed sensor back there. All right, now we're taking off the cooler lines. Just try to get rid of as many lines as possible. Drain the oil. Talk about here some electrical or something. Undo the motor mounts. This one was fine. The other side ended up stripping the bolt, so that was a little bit of fun getting the engine out after. Normally on the engine that I yanked out of the junkyard, the rubber was so old I was just able to tear it as I was removing it. Some of the rear hydraulic leveling lines disconnecting right there. Those are the engine torque dampers. I'm pondering what to do about this AC compressor. I do end up removing it. I take off the big line, and then I was able to remove it off the engine, taking off the coolant hoses. Notice just pure water in there. So that's how I received the vehicle. Lower it down. Now we're going to start on the top side. Now I'm removing the inlet in and out for fuel, feed and return, Taking off all these vacuum and electrical ports off the engine. A bunch of zip ties that I snapped off here. There we go. I don't know what any of these are yet, so I'm using this video to help me put this thing back together later. It stays with the engine. And I maybe should have tried a little bit harder to get the harness out through the firewall, but instead I ended up working here. So we'll try, when we reassemble the engine, I'll try putting the harness on the engine first so I don't have to deal with all those. You have to use a slim 13 mil wrench on that. Here we go. Now I'm taking off the little clip for the throttle linkage. And the throttle linkage is able just to, if you undo the little nut, it's able to slide off. Just going to work on the front cooling stack here. These are just little clips holding in the radiator. And I really thought I could slide this out, but obviously I can't. So we're going to have to be doing some other work here. Jesus, man, it ain't coming out. Very stubborn. All right, so we're going to be taking off the fan first, and the fan and shroud assembly are going to come off as one. And eventually I'll give you a better angle too. There we go. So I was able just to get a little, 10 mil ratchet wrench on there, and those bolts came off pretty easy, and the whole assembly is able to come off. There we go. Fan off the pulley. Get that out of there. Now the shroud can come out, and now the radiator can come out. There we are. Nice, a lot of room. Just a bunch. I'm doing as many hoses as I can. Try to keep everything organized. I wish I had a better angle here to know what the hell I was doing. Well, if you know what I'm doing, let me know in the comments, because I don't remember what I was just undoing there. Took out the power steering lines. This little bracket was tricky here. I didn't realize that it's an adjuster. So yeah, I think I'm taking off some wiring there. That goes for the front crank position sensor and some other stuff, some vacuum lines that go all over the place. Again, I'm going to have to reference the service manual because I just don't know where any of this goes. Buddy came over, working on some of the electrical, taking it apart, throttle linkages off. Just moving some stuff out of the way, doing a whole bunch of nothing. And finally we were lifting it, and we are going to get caught up on that left side motor mount. And we ended up taking the Sawzall a little bit, tried to get the rubber cut. That didn't work. I ended up working from underneath and taking out the mount to block assembly. And then we were able to get the engine out. And of course, memory ran out on the camera, so there's no video of the whole assembly coming out. But you just pull it out and use the leveler to get a good angle on it. It comes out pretty easy. And I also did take off